There's an insane week for the stock market. What all is moving it upwards? What can move it downwards? And way more news to cover. Welcome back to another video. We're going to be telling you guys everything you guys need to know for next week for the stock market and some stocks to watch, supports and resistance. Let's get into it. So first off, man, we're green for the week again, kind of, but like we've seen this before and then it went red again. But with that being said, let's get to the daily. This was on Friday. We had some decent movement. We had Nvidia up almost 5%. Broadcom 2, Google 2%. We had some good earnings with Google, but Google did fall down, but then kind of rebound a little bit. We're going to talk more about that a little bit later. Microsoft, Meta in the green. Netflix is moving pretty smooth, and we got some other stocks too, especially Tesla. Tesla is moving pretty decently. We got some great news, kind of great news with Tesla, but bad earnings to say. Let's talk about the overall stock movement. So SPY, we did have a break above that 550 level. I do want to see how it basically holds above that 550 for next week. Maybe if we hold above that, we might be able to get that 560 to 570 next week. But we do got some things to talk about beforehand and some supports and resistance to give you guys. But first off, let's start off with next week is earnings. We do got some decent earnings for next week. A lot of people are kind of pumped up for it, but let's start off with the basics. So before open on Monday, we got Domino's Pizza, we got some banks, and then honestly, not really anything major on Monday. Tuesday before open, PayPal does okay. So I'm kind of pumped to see how PayPal does. UPS, I got UPS in my long term, so I'm pumped up. UPS and Coca-Cola in my long term. Spotify is pretty decent, especially with subscriptions, seeing what they like, how they're holding up basically. And then after close, we have Visa, Starbucks. Starbucks is okay. It might have a little bit of movement with that. Wednesday, we got Microsoft, Meta, Robinhood, Qualcomm, a lot of great stocks, a lot of great companies. I'm pumped up to see Microsoft, Meta, and Robinhood the most. On Thursday, McDonald's, man. I'm kind of pumped because I got McDonald's in my long term. I guess Roblox, if you guys play video games. I do recommend investing in the things that you personally enjoy. After close, we got Amazon, Apple, Airbnb, another three great stocks. I'm pumped up to see Apple. I personally invest in Apple, got some long term and I short term trade Apple a bunch. Amazon too, just because Amazon has been kind of falling and maybe earnings, maybe it's saving grace. Friday, ExxonMobil, we got the oil prices kind of going up, but then now going down. So maybe Exxon can maybe get a little bit of a price rise and or might fall down a lot. But keep these on your mind and on your radar because these are great day trade stocks, especially Apple, Amazon, Visa, Starbucks. You can get some decent day trades out of those. PayPal. So here's the earnings calendar if you guys want to screenshot it real quick. All right, so next we got the stock calendar. Nothing really on Monday. Tuesday, we got trade balances. We got advanced retailer inventories, some other things, job opening, consumer confidence. That might move the market at 10 a.m. And then we got the retail inventories an hour before market opens, and then 30 minutes before we got some KC or home price index. Wednesday we got the GDP, ADP, PCE. That should move the market a decent amount. So if you guys are day trading, especially 30 minutes before market opens, keep these on your mind. Thursday, we got initial jobless claims an hour before. That can really show maybe a direction and or just kind of move around. If you guys got some swing trades, you guys might be pumped up, see the stock going up, and then maybe this comes out, bring your stock down. We got some PMI data coming out, auto sales. Auto sales might move some stocks if you guys are into like Ford, Tesla, stuff like that. Friday, we got non-farm payrolls, unemployment rate, hourly wages, and honestly, most of these can really move the stock market an hour before. And then we got factory orders on Friday. I personally just looked up stock calendar and I've just been using Market Watch. So if you guys want to personally just search this up, you guys can. So Elon Musk XAI Holdings in talks to raise $20 billion from investors. This might bring some stock up, but you never know. So keep that on your mind. Trump tariff lies, China eases some of the US tariffs. So we kind of got this yesterday, and that's why stocks have been going up. And we kind of just been getting it like throughout the week. So this is why we're kind of getting into a little bit of a rally, just because the trade war, we're kind of getting like better news than worse news. Now we're kind of in those good times, might be going upwards. So we will be looking at some levels to look at. OpenAI and Yahoo both want Chrome if Google has to sell. So Google went through some things and kind of almost getting forced to sell Chrome, but it's not quite yet that they have to sell it to say. But keep Yahoo and OpenAI on your radar if Google's or if they buy Google Chrome. If Yahoo buys it, they're probably going to take it over and use their own platform. I personally like Google Chrome, especially extensions and everything like that. So, it's going to be different. Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile prepare to raise prices on consumers because of the trade war. So this is kind of bad news for the consumer because I mean, the phone bills. I mean, they're already getting expensive, but getting even more expensive is crazy. So I guess this is for the consumer and some of the other stocks because people might switch. They might either switch carriers and or just their revenue is going to go up higher if they don't lose too many people, and then that can bring the stock up to say some of the most active stocks. I haven't looked at this in a while, but Nvidia, Tesla, Intel, Palantir, Ford. One thing that I've been seeing about Palantir and Nvidia, they're kind of moving at the same price range, but keep in mind Nvidia's market cap is like 2.7 trillion, and then Palantir is like I think 200 billion or something like that, maybe 300 billion. Looked at it a little bit yesterday. But with that being said, one stock that I am personally looking at is Palantir, just because it's been moving upwards consistently. If you guys don't know what Palantir is, they basically make AI work for your business to say. I guess that's in the short, but basically they have a lot of government contracts, and that's just basically good cash flow. They're not really going to lose that cash flow basically in bad times. So honestly, if we zoom out a little bit, though, I'm not even gonna lie, Palantir probably has been holding the strongest out of all the other stocks. We did have a big fall from that 123 all the way down to that 60. That's like half, but it still has been holding pretty strong, especially just because like the short term, right? If you would have bought down at the 40, even later at the 63, you're still not going to be negative unless you're that person that bought it up here. Then of course you're going to be negative. But we are kind of beating those new highs again, and honestly, I think Palantir is going to break its all-time high faster than any other stock. So I'm personally looking at it to the upside still, just because of the bullish momentum we have. With that being said, let's get back to the 5 minute, kind of give you guys some price levels to look at. So me personally, I have a long-term call, and then I had another long-term call before when it broke down like at that $70 level. I sold when it reached 80 because it was already in the money, and honestly, there's no point to hold. Don't get greedy, especially in the stock market. You shouldn't get greedy. But with that being said, I do have another call at around that 108 level, and I'm probably going to sell it at that 115 and then maybe get back in. But really, some levels that I'm personally looking at is that 114, 115, 116.5, and that 120 level, and then go zoom out a little bit more to the highs. I think it's 126, so 125 and then 126. And then if we can break new highs, I'll be looking at that 130 level next. Hopefully we can break some new highs and Palantir just keeps on going up. I personally have this in my long term. I think my average is $72. Yeah, I got in pretty late. I'm not gonna lie. I think my average cost like a year ago or something, or I think 2 years or something, was like $5. Should have held, honestly. Especially now, that would be insane. But Palantir is a great stock to look at. That's what I recommend looking into. The other one is Tesla. Tesla just has been moving pretty strong. We did get some bad news with their earnings, but Elon Musk is actually saying that he wants to step away, not step fully away from Doge, but spend less time in Doge and spend more time in the Tesla, which is honestly a good idea. He should work on his own business. He'll probably benefit more. But with that being said, that did spike the stock up a bunch. Honestly, man, I got into a call option yesterday. I wasn't expecting it to go up this much. I even looked the past couple of days and it hasn't really been breaking up that much. But I did get into a call option, and I think I sold at this red level, that 277.9 level, because it did start going down and then it went back up, and then I was like, I'm gonna just sell. And then it did rally up a little bit more, but just like I said before, it's not really time to be greedy. But with that being said, Tesla is moving up a bunch. I don't really expect to see big moves like this unless you get news. But you can probably see moves like this, like all the way 250 to like that 260 level. So maybe a $10 move normally. But yesterday we were like, what, 261? We went up almost $20 yesterday. So expect big moves like this if you see news, but also expect Tesla maybe to fall. Maybe, I'm saying maybe, and if it does fall, we might fall 20 to $30 in one day, especially like depending on what the news is. Trading, man, you need to know news, and that's the main thing. So before we get more into that, let's get into some overall how everything is going. So after a sharp decline on Monday, you guys seen that decline on Monday? It was insane. US stock future showed modest gains early Tuesday with SPY. The S&P 500, Dow Jones, and the Nasdaq each rising at around 1%. However, these gains only offset the previous day's losses. We went down a bunch, a bunch on Monday. Investor sentiment, so investors' confidence is winding down, influenced by the concerns over the trade policies and the trade uncertainty. So we still have trade uncertainties and big trade policies to say. They are getting a little bit softening, especially with the China and US talks right now. But the S&P 500 has dropped 13% in 2025, making it its worst relative start since 1993. So honestly, we have been dropping since 2025. So some key developments, trade policies. So President Trump has announced sweeping tariffs, including 245% tariffs on Chinese imports and additional tariffs on Canada and Mexico. These measures have led to retaliatory tariffs from affected countries, but as we've seen in the previous week, it has been kind of easing. So yeah, we did have the tension between President Trump and Jerome, basically saying that president wants to fire Jerome, but basically, in short, Trump has talked to his advisors saying that it wouldn't be a great idea, and also Trump just saying that he doesn't want to fire him anymore. But it's kind of been going back and forth because at first he said he didn't want to fire him, and then he started going back at him again, and then now he's saying that he doesn't want to fire him. So that did bring stocks up a decent amount, and the U.S. dollar has been falling to a 3-year low, while gold prices has surged. So we did breach a record of $3,500 per ounce for gold, which is crazy. People are moving towards gold, but also keep gold on your mind because gold might be falling if the stocks do start getting a rally and these trade tensions start going down. And we kind of already seen gold fall from that 3,500 level all the way down to that $3,300 level. And honestly, if the basically look at the main stocks like S&P 500, Nasdaq, and stuff like that, if that starts going up, gold might start going down more, and you might see gold at like that $3,000 level. We do have good price targets. I think we got one like $4,000 price target for gold, but that's only if we keep falling. But I'm not gonna lie, we're not really in that green zone for SPY yet. Right now we're kind of honestly, just think about it like we're kind of in the rumor phase, like people are saying that the trade tensions are going to be light. We did get that good news saying that China is going to ease and then US wants to ease too, but we're not really in that direct where, everything's better. So keep that in mind because we can still fall a decent amount. We're going to look at some price targets for the SPY later. Let me just get done with the news a little bit. So some sector highlights. So technology companies like Apple and Nvidia are under pressure due to supply chain concerns from the trade dispute. So I understand that Nvidia basically their chip they can't sell their H20 chip in China anymore, and then Apple basically I think 80 to 90% of their iPhones is made in China. But Apple did come out saying that they want to start making more things in the U.S. But there actually is something saying that it's going to cost them a lot of money to start doing that and just getting the supplies and everything. Energy. So energy faces challenges from both falling crude oil prices and risk associated with the trade war. So more on the investor sentiment. So basically, the University of Michigan surveyed indicated a sharp of 32% drop in US consumer confidence since January, primarily driven by fears over inflation and economic slowdown. So now things to look at for the week. So some key companies to look at. So Tesla, okay? So investors are basically waiting for results following the recent stock volatility. So we really want to see which way Tesla really is moving because honestly, like if we go back to it, we have been going up a bunch, but at the same time, we can go down a bunch too with Tesla. Let me get to the 4 hour, zoom out a little bit, show you guys a little bit because we kind of did get this before. Like, look at this big spike up, and then we fell down, and it came back and then fell down even more, made a double top, fell down, and then breached the lows again. So honestly, we're still in that range of seeing that 218 once again. But with that being said, I think if we can breach that 300 level and show some good volume, good momentum, we can still break above that 300 and then make some great highs and or we'll either fall off this and then go down. So you can make a good little play downwards or upwards. Play it by the day if you guys are day traders. Swing trading is a little bit harder for Tesla because you really don't know where it's going to move, especially in this range. If we were still down here, you guys could have like swing traded a call, but now we're kind of in that range where we don't know what's going to happen, so we're kind of being a little bit more patient with Tesla. Google, so focus will be on AI investments and cloud revenue performance. So like I said before with Google has been kind of, it did fall after its earnings, but with that being said, let's get to the 5 minute and kind of show you guys that fall because we did have a little bit of a rebound, but not really. And with the stock movement on Friday, it kind of shows that Google isn't really looking too bright. Because look at this, it's like constant downward trend. We tried to kind of come back, but then the sellers came back in, and then we fell down to that 163. I was debating on doing like an over the weekend put all the way down to that 159 level, sell it to that 159. But honestly, just gonna be patient. You could probably see it back at that 159 and maybe even 157, because honestly, with this kind of like how it looks, you're gonna see it go up, and then you're gonna see it fail the earnings too. Like the buyers are just out basically, and you can make new lows with this basically, which is insane. So I've seen this multiple times happen. I'm not going to say it's going to reach new lows, but honestly, we might be able to see it all the way down to like that 5 or 57 level, 157. So keep Google in your mind to the downside, but honestly, if we can maybe get a little bit of rally up, it might look good. But like I said, look at Google and then look at like the SPY. The SPY just moved up on Friday when Google moved down. A lot of other stocks moved up, but yeah, so Google is kind of not really looking too bright right now. Boeing, so scrutiny over potential impact of trade tensions on Chinese plane deliveries. So if you guys didn't know, I don't know if it's still a thing fully, but China kind of came out saying that they can't really buy Boeings, like to the airliners, saying don't buy any Boeings or don't accept any deliveries yet. So keep that in mind. Intel assessment of new leadership strategies amid tariff challenges. So there is a new leadership, and we did see before that they laid off like 20% of their workforce. It might be a good thing. Normally, if you see this in businesses, it will go down, but he might be doing something great. So yeah. But with that being said, let's get some price targets for you guys. So, like I said before, look at that 550 first. If we break below that, we might be able to go all the way down to 547.5. And then after 547.5, look at 544.5, and then 542.8, and then 540 to the downside. To the upside, if we can stay above this 550 level, it holds strong. You got some good volume going to the upside. Look at 553, 555, 557.5, and that 560 level next for the SPY. For Apple, still kind of pumped for Apple. Look at 209.5, 210, 211, 212, and that 212.8, and then that 215 next. To the downside, if we start falling, because of course, if SPY falls, Apple's probably going to fall, and we might get some bad news. So look at that 207.5, 206, and that 205.5, and then all the way down to that 200 level. I think Apple is going to hold above that 200 level, but not really to say kind of like it's going to fall down, right? But then it's going to come back, like I feel like its normal range right now is above that 200. So if you do want to get like a long-term call option, I do recommend having your patience, of course, once it falls below that 200. But I mean, if we can get 190 once again or 195, you can play a little long-term call option. Same thing with Nvidia. If Nvidia falls below that $100 level, I think it's going to stay above that $100 level. We weren't really below it. We were below it for like a day and a half, basically. But with that being said, if you do fall below that $100 level, get to like that 95 to 90, unless we're in like a recession or something, you guys can play a long-term call option. I normally play my calls for these for like 2 to 3 weeks ahead, sometimes a month, and then normally they hit like this one right here all the way down to that 95. You could have just played it next day, it's above 100. And then there's another one where it was at like 83 or 86, sorry, 86. And literally the next day it was above 100, and then 105 the next day after that. So you can make a decent amount of money off of these plays. But I mean, it's really just a patient play and just watch it. These ones are like longer term plays, so you don't have to watch it like all day, but you can watch it every now and then, have some price levels on your phone. But for Nvidia, I want to see how it reacts at 110 level. If we stay above that 110, look at 114, 115, 117.8, 120, and then that 125 level to the upside. To the downside, 108, 105, and then that $100 level. And if we break below that, just have your patience, let it fall as much as it can. But I mean, as we've seen in the past, it falls down and then it normally comes back the next day or the day after. So once it falls down, you got to kind of act fast to get some decent plays into that. Tesla, we kind of already looked at Tesla, but 290, 295, 300, 280, 275, and 269.15. Amazon, honestly, Amazon, we got earnings, so keep earnings on your radar because it might move a little bit more this week, just like in anticipation for earnings. But to the upside, look at that 190. If we can break above that 190, we kind of broke it yesterday, but if we can break above that 190, look at 191, 192, and 195. Amazon kind of moves a little bit slower, except for Thursday, but it kind of moves a little bit slower. Like the range was like 185 to like that 190 almost, so like a $5 move in total. But to the downside, 187.9, 187, 185.5. And then if we break below that, look at 180. Google has been moving bad, like I said before. Just look at it to the downside for now. Don't get into any call options yet unless you see strong movement to the upside. Bitcoin, okay? So we got to talk about Bitcoin a little bit. Let me open it up a little bit. So Bitcoin is currently trading at $94,753. It does move on the weekly. But with that being said, I do think that we can maybe break that 100K next week if we keep on getting great news and basically just great movement in the market overall. Bitcoin has been moving pretty strong. We were all the way down to like that 70K like a week or two ago, and now we're at 94,000, which is insane. So with Bitcoin on your radar, look at MSTR because MSTR has been moving strong because of this. If we go to that 4 hour time frame, zoom out a little bit, and then zoom in, we can see it all the way down to that 232, and now it's at that 270, which is insane. You could have made a decent amount of money if you did a swing trade. I was debating on doing a swing trade, but kind of just don't know how crypto moves too much. I kind of do, but kind of don't. I don't really know. But people are saying that Bitcoin can reach like 150 to 200K just because of how it's moving, because another bull rally is coming in. I'm not gonna say I don't believe that, but I mean, with the way it's moving, it looks like the bull rally is coming in. People said it before when it was like at that $85,000 level. So yeah, but MSTR, look at it to the upside if Bitcoin goes up, look at it to the downside if Bitcoin goes down, and then also keep SPY on your mind because SPY basically it moves with SPY sometimes too. So you kind of got to look at both charts, the Bitcoin and the SPY chart, just to make sure that you're getting your best play and the best money. But look at that 380, 390, 400. 390 is a great level from previous times. I looked at it from that 390 and it kind of bounced off of it, went down. But 390, 400, 420, and then that 425, and then that maybe 450 if we can get back to some highs. I think it got up to 480 or something. 450. Oh no, I went up to 500, which is insane. To the downside, look at 360, 350, 340. Basically, the 10. This stock does move pretty decently. If Bitcoin moves pretty decently. Another one to look at is let me look for it. Where am I at? Oh, Coinbase, and then also IBIT. I had some long-term plays, or not long-term, but short-term swing trades with IBIT. But honestly, $43 all the way up to 54. And I think when Bitcoin hits 100,000, it should be around that $56 level. I think something like that, 56 to like that $57 level for that 100K. So if you guys want to play some call options on Bitcoin itself, you guys can do IBIT. IBIT is a great stock to look at if you guys are, trying to get to, the Bitcoin. But with that being said, last stock that we're going to look at is Netflix because Netflix has been moving strong to the upside. We broke that $1,000 level after earnings. As you guys can see, we just been breaking upwards ever since. So I think Netflix, you guys can play some option plays, but they're expensive. This is probably like the next like how Nvidia, Broadcom and stuff was. That's when everybody was making money. But look at Netflix to the upside for now. We might have another fall like we've seen before, like it was at that 100K or not 100K, that $1,000 level, and then it fell all the way down to that 900, went down to 800s. So we might see that again, but I'm not saying we will. But keep that on your mind because last time we had earnings, it broke up above that 1,000, kind of held above, and then broke up for like a month or so, and then it started falling. So if you can catch this thing falling, man, you can probably make a decent amount of money. With that being said, though, thanks for watching the video. Smash the like button, subscribe if you guys are new. I'm going to be coming out with a $100,000 challenge, basically just for my long term, just to get you guys more invested in the long term, because I do recommend people having a long term. So I'm going to be starting a new long term and just starting it with 100,000, investing into certain stocks, explaining why I'm investing into the stocks, and then just make maybe like monthly videos. I don't think weekly videos is good enough because honestly, like I don't, I normally I manage my long term like monthly. But with that being said, we might make monthly videos after that, and I might even come out with like a little course if you guys are interested. So stay tuned for that. Have post notifications on, and I will be coming out with other projects too. But yeah, thanks for watching. Smash the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.